you know, not if we use that. Let's try something different. Oh, really? Yeah, like in the metro. Probably because I opened it. It's really good. Yeah, it's like. I like open the other one.
Few seconds. At least it's bright out. For us to sit inside.
I opened this at home and I had no problem.
All right, the time is 7 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pulaski,
Here.
trustee Berkshire, trustee Della Penna,
Here.
trustee Domke,
Here.
trustee Lanisa, trustee Burkowski,
Here.
trustee Trejo.
Here. We have a quorum. We'll now move on to presentation of the prepared agenda. Could I have a board member make a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Let's pose nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. We'll now move on to village board public comment. Anyone wishing to provide a comment on a topic or an agenda item may address the village board during the public comment or public hearing segments of the village board agenda by submitting comments in advance or during the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments submitted in advance?
We have two. The first is from Robert Hassa. Robert here today? Okay. This is in regards to street repair where clay drain lines are breaking and charging citizens to repair. Robert Hassa of 203 West Devon Avenue writes, there should be an amendment to change this law. We are being charged a capital improvements fee each month, which should be more than enough to cover these expenses. If not, why not add a $10 monthly fee for these replacements? We're having too much semi-truck traffic driving through our streets.
I know we will be discussing a lot about infrastructure Wednesday. We'll be talking about that briefly here in a little bit. But I did advise staff to please put together some options for the board to consider on this policy matter for us to consider later on in the year.
Okay, the second comment is from Brett Weinstein, who's here today, and he wants to speak.
We need to read your comments that you submitted, or if you want to talk to us directly, it's up to you. Your choice. Perfect. And if you don't mind, for the record, even though we just read your name, just state it again for the microphone and for everyone at home.
My name's Brett Weinstein. I just wanted to bring up the possibility of having chickens allowed in Roselle. My wife and I, let's see, my sister-in-law, she's got them down in her town. I know it's kind of becoming more popular these days. We want pets for our kids, dogs, and cats aren't really feasible for us. And you know, from what I've seen, they're cheap, they're safe. You know, there's no real issues. Space-wise, I think it's 4 square feet per chicken in the coop, 8 square feet in the run. So again, it's not taking up a whole backyard as far as I would go. Really the gist of it.
Great. Thank you so much. Under other business, I'll ask the board for their opinions on how we want to move forward on that. Is there any other member of the public here tonight that wishes to address the board? All right, let the record show none. We'll move on to officials and staff reports. Under mine, just want to highlight our community forum that will be taking place this Wednesday at 7 p.m. right here in the Chamber Council, the council chambers. We do have a form online that we're encouraging all residents. If you are considering going, please fill that out. That's not guaranteed. It's to make sure we have enough space here at Village Hall. We want to make sure that everyone can be accommodated if possible. That evening, myself, Karen Young, our Public Works Director, and Jason Blowski, our Village Minister, will be presenting out on the content to the community on that. We will have different points that we will stop to check for understanding and to get feedback from the residents. From a board perspective, really looking forward to having you there if you can. What we will probably do is have you guys kind of front row so you can kind of take in the information, hear residents' feedback and concerns, and you'll probably walk away learning something new as well, because I think we do a good job of stepping through the issue, the complexities of it, both on the what do we see as the evolution of why we are here today, what are the needs that exist today, both regulatory but also operational, and the constraints that we have from a revenue side of things and how we have to manage our finances from that side. I know in the agenda, we did present or provide a quick summary of the content and how we're going to be going through it. So I think, again, this will be a really great opportunity for anyone in the community to join us. It will be streaming as well as recorded for those who can't attend or watch it live. So we're really looking forward and hoping that we get as many people to attend. Thus far, as of this, the end of business today, we had 34 people sign up online. So that's really good showing, since we haven't asked our residents to kind of pre-register for an event before. So I would just encourage everyone and your neighbors to continue to spread the word so we can have a good conversation. I think I want to stress, well, there's definitely concerns. We're not at the crisis inflection point. So I think in keeping with our tradition with the village, I think we're really good about making sure we're bringing the community along to have that conversation so we can make the right decision and not worry about having to, cut rolls and do other kind of more dramatic measures to keep the ship moving in the right direction. So I think we're in a really good spot as of today to hopefully tackle this issue with the best balance towards our residents. So any questions about the upcoming community forum? All right, well, that's all I had under my report tonight. Village trustees, anyone have a report? Wayne.
Well, I'm honored to be tasked with the assignment to talk about the museum and the fundraiser that they're having on April 15th. We know Tom Perkowski is going to be the presenter of comedic things in government of the past. And also the keynote speaker will be Mr. David Polinsky, Mayor of Roselle. So anybody that doesn't want to be there, don't be there, but it's only $15 and it's a great night of fun at Trinity Lutheran. What is it, at 7 o'clock down? What?
6:30.
6:30. Okay, get there early. There's wine and cheese and crackers and stuff. So anyway, we all should be there.
Perfect. Any other reports? Trustee Perkowski.
Just want to clarify, David will be doing the introduction. I will be the keynote speaker, but also.
Oh, wait a minute. Anytime the mayor shows up, he's the keynote speaker,
I'm-
even if he's being an usher, okay?
Fair enough. And then also just want to mention two things. I mentioned them before, but just in case you haven't heard, the Lake Park Educational Foundation is having a fundraiser on March 23rd at Topgolf. Tickets are available if you go to the Lake Park Educational Foundation website. So it's a great cause. Obviously, the money for the Educational Foundation goes towards scholarships for Lake Park students. And then also another important event coming up. The Roselle United Methodist Church's food pantry is having their second annual gala on April 29th, 2023. Tickets for that are also available if you go to the food pantry's website and on their Facebook page. So that is all I have, Mayor Pileski.
So basically spend your money because you can't take it with you, right, David?
Exactly.
All right.
Your words, not mine. Anyone else have a report from the board? Seeing none, village clerk.
Rain barrel pre-ordering has begun, and you can find the new online order form online, courtesy of Community Relations Coordinator Emily Glimko, on our website at roselle.il.us/rain-barrel. In order to be included in the first shipment, please pre-order by March 22nd. However, we'll do shipments monthly through July.
Great. Thank you so much. Village Attorney,
No report.
Village Administrator.
No report.
All right, we'll move on to unfinished business. The first item is the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, non-controversial in nature and will be enacted in one motion. There'll be no discussion on these items. Tonight, we have presentation and approval of the village board minutes of February 13th, 2023 and February 27th, 2023. Pass an ordinance establishing the Salerno Summerfield Lake Street Special Service Area in the village of Roselle, Illinois. Adopt a resolution to close a state highway for the purpose of holding the annual Rose Parade, and adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the 2023 Devlin Basin sanitary sewer flow monitoring between the village of Roselle and RJN Group in the amount of $95,300. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Do I have a second? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna,
Aye.
trustee Lanisa,
Aye.
trustee Prokowski.
Aye.
That motion carries. We'll now move on to community development. Trustee Domke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing for the pre-annexation of 22 West 118 Irving Park Road, Roselle, Illinois.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna,
Aye.
trustee Lanisa,
Aye.
trustee Prokowski.
Aye.
And notice was filed on the Daily Herald on February 24th, 2023, and is on record with the clerk's office.
So I, as chair, would like to ask if there's any member of the public wishing to ask questions of the petitioner or of the village staff. Seeing none, I would ask also if there's any member of the public or the petitioner wishes to speak in favor of this petition. Seeing none there, I would also ask if any member of the public wishes to speak against this petition. Seeing none, questions or comments from the board?
We move forward as presented.
Moving forward. Okay, I got a motion to close this hearing.
Moved. Is there a second? Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Lanisa. Aye. Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Prokowski.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we'll go on to, I make a motion to open public hearing for,
9C.
C. Oh, 9C, okay. I make a motion to pass an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of an amendment to the pre-annexation agreement for the property commonly referred to as 22 West 118 Irving Park Road, Roselle, Illinois.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we have a roll call.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa. Aye. Trustee Prokowski.
Aye.
That motion carries.
And I have another one. I would like to open a public hearing for the amendments to the pre-annexation agreements for 6 North 736 and 6 North 744 Medina Road.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa. Aye. Trustee Prokowski.
Aye.
That motion carries. This was published in the Daily Herald on February 24th, 2023, and is on record with the clerk's office.
So continuing on, I'd like to ask if any member of the public wishes to ask a question of the petitioner or the village staff. Seeing none, I ask if any member of the public or the petitioner wishes to speak in favor of the petition. Seeing none, we'll continue on with ask if any member of the public wishes to speak against this petition. Seeing none, does our board or staff have any comments?
Move forward as presented.
Forward, okay. So I want to make a motion to close the public hearing. Where am I at? Close the public hearing for the amendments to the pre-annexation agreements for 6 North 736 and 6 North 744 Medina Road.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Prokowski.
Aye.
That motion carries.
I'd also like to make a motion to pass an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of an amendment to the pre-annexation agreement for the property commonly referred to as 6 North 736 Medina Road, Medina, Illinois.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna,
Aye.
trustee Lanisa,
Aye.
trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
That motion carries.
And to wrap up this endeavor, I would like to make a motion to pass an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of an amendment to the pre-annexation agreement for the property commonly referred to as 6 North 744 Medina Road, Medina, Illinois.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call?
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna,
Aye.
trustee Lanisa,
Aye.
trustee Burkowski.
Aye.
That motion carries.
That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Wayne. We'll let you rest your breath for a little bit there. Administration, trustee Delapenna.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution supporting tax increment financing, TIF.
Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Yes. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. We have nothing under fire, police, or public works tonight. Finance, trustee Prokowski.
Thank you, Mayor Pulaski. I'd like to move approval of the accounts payable list for March 13th, 2023 in the amount of $3,205,075.52. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Burkowski,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Moving to the next one, I'd like to move approval of an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2022 budget for the general fund, foreign fire insurance fund, Gary Avenue Business District Fund, Irving Park Road Business District Fund, American Rescue Plan Act Fund, TIF number 4 East Irving Park Road Fund, Water Sewer Operating Fund, Parking Lot Operating Fund, Information Technology Fund, and Firefighters Pension Fund.
Thank
Second.
you. Any discussion from the board?
No.
Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Burkowski,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Delapenna,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that is all I have. And the word fund was starting to lose meaning.
All right. We'll now move on to new business. First tonight, we'll provide direction to staff regarding the possible annexation or rezoning of 1900 South Roselle Road to B2 Convenience Shopping Center. Our Community Development Manager, Karen Bricks, will present.
Okay, so 1900 South Roselle Road is actually located on North Roselle Road, across from the Remax Center, south of 390. The property is currently unincorporated and it consists of 4 different parcels. There's a house, a garage, and then a small shed on the property. Up until I think the past couple of years, it was occupied by a resident who was living there. So Miss Shalmetzi, who's here tonight, recently purchased the property, intending to open her Molly Maid business on site. So use the house as her office, and have all of her employees and their cars parked on site, all the equipment and supplies that they need. And the property was unincorporated and still is. So there were some code issues that occurred when she first started operating out of the property, which have since resolved themselves with the county. So she has requested permission to annex into the village. As part of annexing the property, she is requesting B2 Convenience Shopping Center district zoning, which is the same zoning across the street. So the Remax Center, the former bank, Southern Cafe are all zone B2. However, everything on the west side of Roselle Road is residential. So before going through the whole planning and zoning commission public hearing process and spending additional money, staff thought that it would be a good idea to sort of solicit feedback from the board on her request. So as part of her operation, she would construct a parking lot north of the house along Roselle Road for all of her employees. She's discussed landscaping improvements to provide screening, both noise and light, fencing. If she was granted commercial zoning, she would be allowed by right to install a 10-foot privacy fence. So that would help screen from the neighborhood if that is something that the board is interested in allowing. So the comprehensive plan, the future land use map, designates the property as multifamily residential. Any conditions that the board deems to be right for the use, if this is something that you direct staff to move forward with, can be included in the annexation agreement as well. So there can be conditions of the approval outside of the rezoning request. And obviously she's here tonight to answer any questions.
Any questions, council on the board? Bruce?
Yes, this property is south of the village-owned property, correct?
Yes.
What were we looking to zone that when we were entertaining a hotel?
The village-owned site, it would have been commercial.
Okay, and second question has to do with, can we stipulate it so that if we zone it for this particular use, that should she sell the property or try to sell the property, that we can, that zoning is only to this owner or to that particular parcel as is? What I'm concerned with, this is a relatively non-intrusive type of thing, but if we have that, and next thing you know, concrete company or an asphalt company comes in and now we have heavy equipment and construction equipment, that's much different than the made trucks that I see, other than the pink color that's right. So I'm curious, is that a stipulation we can put on that so that we don't have to, should she sell, that the next owner would have to then come back and get some sort of rezoning?
So I think the zoning itself kind of does that. B2 is our most limited
Okay.
commercial zoning district. So basically, all of our shopping centers essentially are zone B2. So there's no contractors' offices or anything like that. It's mostly restaurants, service type businesses, and offices generally is what we have in our B2 zoning. So any future owner and of the property would have to follow that zoning.
All right, thank you.
Wayne?
I do have a question based on what we were just talking about, what Bruce asked, is that the property that we own just north of that is going to be zoned commercial. So therefore, by the common boundary, we assume that it can move one more house down to the south.
So
What are the criteria to become a commercial site from a residential? I mean, I own a house across the street from the fire department that when I bought it, it was zoned commercial. How did it become commercial when there's residential next door to each house, to this house? So is this a case by case basis, or is there a regular formula for this?
so generally you have to take in, you have to consider sort of the impact of the entire area. So for this particular property, it's located on Roselle Road, which is a major thoroughfare. Just on the opposite side of Roselle Road, you have commercially zoned property. And for the village site, we were only considering commercial zoning when we were pursuing the hotel idea. So that's why we kind of left it as R1 zoning. So we would have to go through kind of the discussion process. So it's kind of on a case by case basis, but you also have to have
Some justification.
Yes, so for your property as an example too, you're close to Main Street and other commercial zone properties. So it made sense and it was an office. So it's a less intrusive use to
And the
residential.
museum is a couple. doors
Yep.
away. Okay.
I think just to reiterate, the village owned lot is still zone residential, so I don't want anyone to walk away thinking that it is commercial. It is residential today. And there is technically a lot that is unincorporated that buffers this lot from the village owned lot. There is a property in between, just for everyone's record. So,
That is also unincorporated.
correct. Other thoughts or questions from the board?
I'm okay with it as long as we put those conditions in, the ones that are proposed.
Okay, we got one for as staff has kind of proposed.
I'm okay for it because I live with it.
Got two. Lee. oh, Sorry, go ahead, Lee.
But, being a good neighbor is essential, the way you presented that. I don't even know if a 10-foot fence would even be fun to look at. I mean, I might rather look at your vehicles than a 10-foot fence, but aside from that, I like the petitioners details of how they would function. I think that goes a long way, maybe to talking to your neighbors and letting them know that you're a good neighbor. I just wonder though, sometimes when you buy a property that's not zoned the way you want it, isn't it better to, before you buy the property, to get it changed?
If you don't mind, can you just go to the microphone? Otherwise, our viewers at home can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. In retrospect, we would have done it completely different. It was a complete move of ignorance. I know that now, and I guess that's when you go into business, you learn all kinds of lessons. So this is
Yeah.
certainly one I get to share with all the people.
You're not alone, because I know someone else that's in the same position that you are.
Yeah, but it's very important that everyone in the community, and obviously you folks understand, we live in that neighborhood too. And so every time I turn down Schreiber, I look at that house.
Hmm.
And as I told Karen, we let the first offer die on the vine because she wanted a little bit too much money, but I promised her that for her mother, we would keep the house in its 1924 style
Hmm.
and we would protect kind of the beauty of the lot. And so the fence came up initially because people were worried about seeing the cars. And so when Karen and I talked, I said, there's no reason why we couldn't move the parking lot right on Roselle Road. So when you make that turn on Schreiber, you don't see the cars. The only people who see the cars are the people on Roselle Road. And the interesting thing with that, if you look at the way the lot lands or the lot lies, it actually dips down. So you almost won't see a great deal of cars either.
Mhm.
And our proposal on lighting is very low light. We don't need a lot of lights. They're just Molly-made Toyota Corollas. There's nothing in them but vacuums. So it's not like it's going to cause a ruckus, and our hours.
They're good vacuums, right?
Yeah, they are good. They last forever. But in our business hours, we're done by 3:30. There's nobody there. So we're willing to make operational changes, whatever we need to do to make it not be an issue for the community. So I thank you for your consideration.
Lee, Tom, or Cheryl, any thoughts as far as, and again, we're not committing to anything. This would have to go to planning and zoning before anything could come to us for final approval, but do we feel comfortable moving forward with the public hearing process, neighbors being notified and whatnot? So that's a yes. Okay, Lee, Bruce. All right. So everyone's good with moving forward with the planning and zoning. So it'll be their first recommissioned case. So thank you. Next, we have provide direction on financial offering section of the draft service led replacement policy to include potential grant assistance. So there'll be our finance director, Tom Dahl, and our village administrator, Jason Pulaski.
So thank you, Mayor. So we're picking up where the board left off at their last discussion around this policy. You have kind of the entire draft policy here before you. And really, we're currently just focusing on that kind of the financial offerings component. At the meeting, Trustee Trejo asked for some further information around a potential, what we're kind of calling a grant component to the policy. We kind of went and looked at existing programs that offered through other governmental entities as well as ourselves through our senior utility tax rebate program. So you see kind of the parameters for that already approved village program is the basis for kind of the recommendation that staff has as far as for somewhere for the board to start talking, I guess. A recommendation more versus, I guess, more, it's more of just a reason to start the conversation around what the board may want to do from an assistance program. And that's on the very last page of the memo, which talks about kind of that poverty level that's established already, and applying that same criteria for utility tax program to, say, this lead service line program, and used, in this case, kind of the grant amounts are percentages versus dollar amounts. And kind of having a sliding scale there based on percentage of poverty level. So certainly the board can, we felt as staff, this was an appropriate kind of place to start for the conversation. If maybe Tom can chime in on anything as well, regarding kind of some of the criteria that were used.
Again, it was just the utility tax rebate that we took most of the data from all the options from. And right now we're going through that. So if anybody's watching and they are qualified for that, we do have a form that gets filled out with their income information from their tax returns. And then we just use that number, and it's how we would do the sliding scale. So again, and then we kind of look through what other programs there are too. And we would just mirror that if the board wanted to do that.
Questions or feedback? I'll start with you, trustee Trader, not to put you on the spot, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it makes sense since we have this already, this sort of framework already laid out. I think it makes sense to be consistent across like our potential opportunities for grants. So definitely appreciate looking into that more.
Are you comfortable with the percent of poverty level and the amount of the grant being a percent sliding scale? Okay.
Yep.
Other thoughts on the group?
I'm okay with it as well.
Got nods from Bruce, Cheryl, Wayne.
Glad Lee brought that up. Glad he brought that up.
Honestly, I'd kind of be curious, is there any way to move up the, for people who are going to be below the poverty level? So I imagine 50% somebody living below the poverty level is still going to be a very steep ask. So I was just kind of curious, how much wiggle room are there with these percentages?
This was really just to put a framework there, and then
Whatever the board wants, as long as you've got 4 votes, then.
yeah, that's why we just wanted to get this developed, and then you can decide from there what the levels would be.
Does that resonate with anyone on the board, or are people comfortable generally with where we're at? Wayne?
So if you just start with this, just like the rezoning of property, case by case, this looks like it'll fit a lot of the criteria, but you're going to have an occasional one where we might have to look at this and be different.
I would stress we should be as uniform as we can with this as possible.
I agree. But then do you always try to get it to the lowest common denominator?
I think to your point, I think as we roll out each lead service line replacement, this is a policy consideration that the board will need to revisit and decide if they want to offer this or not. Given advance notice will be provided to other community or other neighborhoods. So, but I would say strictly, we have to make a decision. We're about a month away, I would say, from having estimates delivered. So are we comfortable with these, or do we want to change the amount, the percent grant amount?
I'm still comfortable.
Actually, both columns too, correct?
Comfortable with it as is for both sides? Okay, well, I will note we'll have the record reflect that, trustee Prokowski, but we will keep it as staff has proposed. So thank you so much. Does staff need any more direction on lead service lines, or until we get quotes, are we in good shape?
No, I think we can probably bring the policy back for final approval based on this assistance program and the other language that's in there from a financial standpoint. I think we can bring back at the next meeting for formal adoption then.
Great. I appreciate all the work, and I know this has been a very quick turnaround. So I think this has been a great effort, team effort across the board in the organization. So appreciate all the work that's gone into this. We'll now move on to provide direction on staff on petitioning the Illinois Commerce Commission to implement a 24-hour quiet zone at the 3 downtown crossings. So it's a popular night for you, Mr. Administrator.
Yep. And let's wait for the train horn to silence here.
Just in time.
Unique selling proposition.
So really, I think from my perspective, just looking to reaffirm the village's position on a quiet zone in the downtown area as my kind of my memo states it's been 5 years now and even longer for some of your trustees who have been here. We've been talking about quiet zones for a long time. And just want to reaffirm the board's direction on attempting to procure a quiet zone in the downtown. We have attempted through the federal government. After many delays, they finally told us, no, we can't, we're not the right agency, and more or less directed us to the ICC. The ICC seems to maybe have never taken this issue up before, was my takeaway with the conversation with ICC staff, and sort of attempted to get some voluntary, and this is pre-merger, pre-announcement of the merger, mind you, between Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern. And they attempted to get some voluntary compliance from CP particularly, and they were unable to achieve that. And then just basically kind of told me, well, you'll probably just have to go the petition route. Couldn't give me any really further direction or insight other than that. Then the merger was announced. And that to me really changes the landscape, certainly from the impact of trains in Roselle post-merger. You have, not hopefully, but we anticipate there will be a final decision from the Surface Transportation Board, likely by the end of this month, on the merits of the merger. And if it's approved, then CP has everything they need to start moving forward and potentially bringing more freight trains into Roselle. So somewhat this is preemptive. It's to maybe get our place in the line. There are a lot of petitions that are filed at the ICC. The chairperson is resigning, another person is resigning. So it could be a while maybe before starting to get in front of them if that's even necessary. But to me, the petition process would reaffirm the village's interest in securing a quiet zone. Our attempt would be to do it at no cost to our residents. Hopefully, any approval of CP, if it were to be approved, contains the recommended language right now, which is that they would be responsible for paying for an FRA approved quiet zone, albeit this wouldn't necessarily be an FRA quiet zone approved because it would be the ICC approving it. But I would take the position certainly that they should pay for one here in Roselle, because that would be the underlying intent of that language. So just want to confirm with the board again that what I just said aligns with your thoughts and interests in securing a quiet zone in the downtown, knowing there's a lot of pieces that still would have to be flushed out in order to secure that, from the physical, construction of things, the impact on property owners, the impact on our downtown businesses. Mindful of all that, but this is kind of that initial step in the process would be right now, the ICC petition.
Questions or comments from the board? Bruce?
My recollection was that if we started this, we have the potential of losing whatever we have today. Is that still the case? I think we have some midnight to.
Yeah, so we currently have a pre-existing partial quiet zone from from midnight to 5 a.m. In essence, that would be replaced with a 24-hour quiet zone.
But that's assuming we get this approved. If we don't get this approved, then that's gone then.
That's what
that was one of what was our concern before, because
I don't
have any guarantee this is going to happen, especially when we start looking at the cost for all the changes we need to do to the streets, and we have a couple of businesses that would have to be then affected by this. So if we petition the current quiet zone we have, will it survive if we get a no to this petition?
That would be a question for the ICC.
I think I'd like to get that answer.
I don't think we're going to get that answer, quite frankly. And I think
Not
that
from a staff perspective.
I think the problem we have is a lot of these agreements used to be administered federally. And then when they passed legislation, they carved out our area and no one has tested the rules. We are literally the first. So I remember all these conversations you're bringing up. And I think the fact of the matter is, I will say this because I'm elected and Jason is staff and he can't. I don't think that any of them know what the hell to do with our request, because no one has ever asked them to. It's my belief at this point that, if we get to a point where it's not going to look good, we can always retract our petition. But I don't think they know what to do with us. But I think to Jason's point, we have to get in line because if this merger does get approved, we might be in a long backlog. So I think this gets the process moving, but I think we're gonna have to have a lot of conversations throughout this entire process, unfortunately.
Preserving at a minimum the 5 hours. We don't want to lose 5 hours.
Right.
We want to gain 19 more, but
And then you probably answered this question in already, but I'm going to ask it. The question then would be is, what are the repercussions? I'd like to understand, and this is probably part of the petitioning effort, but I'd like to understand the repercussions if we start hearing the horns and so forth. What are the accountabilities? What are they going to do? Especially since now this has been broken up and distributed, and so we're going to go through a lot of machinations, only potentially for nothing to be done. So I'd want to understand if they violate that, what recourse do we have? So I'm in favor for this, but I'm just pointing out, these are things that I think when we start asking these questions, because of this, it's not just, oh, we want a quiet zone. We want all the rest of that.
And I think the underlying thing for our audience and our viewers at home, just because we move forward with this does not guarantee that it is approved. We are asking for permission and compliance.
I'm in favor to move forward as staff, but you got your other questions.
Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally in favor of it. The only thing that does concern me though is obviously given the CP's position and pretty aggressive position of not wanting to pay for improvements, it'd be helpful maybe if we did engage our federal legislators to have them include, you know, anything from the ICC as well, as opposed to just the FRA. If
I attempted and
Okay, got it.
it did. Federal regulations, they don't have jurisdiction over the state.
Yeah.
So I attempted to exert Roselle's position through our coalition and our coalition's attorney and kept raising to his level. Roselle can't get an FRA, Roselle can't get an FRA, and they deal with federal, not with state. So I tried so you do know that.
Yeah,
So
I'm just saying like, as a condition of the merger though, if that could be imposed on them federally, if they say, hey, the condition of the
Yeah.
merger is that you need to, if it's a FRA or ICC.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's too late for that. It's kind of past that perspective, I think, in the consideration by the Surface Transportation Board, but I attempted in my red line edits to our submittals to the Surface Transportation Board to include ICC, and it did not make the final.
Yeah, and we are sure that the ICC is still because this letter is from 2019. I know it was like a merry-go-round for years.
There is no doubt in the read of federal law that we should have been told this a long time ago by the FRA. They went through a pretty extensive process with us, assuming they were responsible, and then it took a change in a lot of things until they told us they had no jurisdiction. So they led us on for years.
Yeah, oh, I remember.
But it's
Wayne?
clear.
And so I've had a chance to sit through about 6 years of this stuff. And all these questions that Lee and Bruce are asking are important. But I want to say Bensonville, Wooddale, I think Hanover Park, Bartlett, Itasca, all have quiet zones. We are the only one on the western line between Chicago and Elgin, I think, or maybe one of the only ones that don't have a quiet zone.
Well, we have one on Road Road.
Well,
Correct,
yeah.
in our town, but we do have one
That
on
should
Road.
be something that should be highlighted with the fact that we've been excluded over these years. And that I think that with this merger coming along, with the noise that we've been complaining about, train horn noise is noise. And we're gonna hear that 24/7. So I mean, and don't think that this quiet zone exists 100%. Because these guys have the option to pull that horn all the time. And some of them do that. And I know there's neighbors that'll tell you that the guy at 2:30 in the morning always does it. Irrespective of that, I'm just trying to say we've been shortchanged a long time. Part of it is our own trepidations with doing anything. We're afraid that, oh, we won't get this, we won't get that. Let's just do it. I mean, all of the communities around have had the same quiet zone put in. Why not Roselle? So, and I would go forward with that. And if there's ever a time the iron is hot, it's now. With this merger and with the emphasis on this railroad. Once these guys merge and we don't do something like this, we're never going to get a chance again. And the money might be there, as Lee was saying, maybe government money, but maybe even this merger money would placate us if this thing goes through. Because we've had a very strong voice right now. And we won't have that again. So, you know, and I'm just saying, we're not asking for a unique thing of privileged character. We're asking for the same thing that all the villages along the west route have had already. So that's how I feel after 6 years of hearing this.
Other comments or questions from the board?
I would move forward with it.
All right, consensus, move forward with it. I know, just as a matter of fact, since it came out, we have been engaging consistently throughout the merger process with property owners and business owners that would be impacted by the merger or the implementation of it. And we've had some variable success in getting feedback that's been helpful. Others we're still working through that, but I think our seriousness in pursuing this helps us kind of work with resolution to bring those parties to the table as well. So it's not something that's lost in this whole process, I will say. So staff has direction to move forward then. We'll figure out the process and probably have ample updates along the way. That concludes new business. Under other business, I just want to take the pulse of the board and get their opinions. We did have a public comment regarding chickens. I think that's something that we could obviously have community development with the zoning or the planning and zoning commission look at. By no means would I prioritize it, but is that something the board is interested in having them look at and bring back at a later to be determined date? Tom?
Yeah, I think actually this is probably a good opportunity to kind of review, I guess that you could say, our animal policies in general, because I know there are residents who have been asking about like bees. There are some of our pet ordinances that are probably a bit outdated. So I think if it's something that they're already looking at the chickens, I think we add in kind of, you know, these other things. I think it's just a good opportunity for that.
Other thoughts from the board? Wayne?
There's been things in the Daily Herald about different.
Chalmers just had something up recently, so I mean,
They've-
we're definitely not trailblazing if we were to look at it.
Right,
so.
and
We
there's
got plenty of
just
examples.
zoning requirements on how the chicken coop has to be built and all this, and then the neighbors have to approve it. I mean, it's,
Mhm.
you know, with the right criteria, we could do this.
Okay. All right. I'm getting a lot of head nods. So Karen, we'll just have you work with planning and zoning then to bring this back to the board at a later date then, and we'll expand the scope, just to kind of look at the pet ordinances, beekeeping and chickens as well. So appreciate your public comment.
Howie Maids clean chicken coops. It's a new industry.
New industry, right? So we do have a second opportunity for public comment. Is there any member of the public here tonight that wishes to address the board? Seeing none, then I'd like to entertain a motion to convene executive session for the purpose to discuss personnel appointment and employment of a specific employee in the police department.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there,
The intent would be, we will not be taking final action. We'll be adjourning from executive session. With that being the case, could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Della Pena.
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire.
Yes.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Prokowski.
Aye.